3 days. That's how long it took for the truth to come out. She trusted my silence. I trusted my instincts. It started on a Thursday, right after work, when I came home and found her crying in the kitchen. Not sobbing. No, it was quieter than that. Controlled. A kind of crying you do when you're hoping to be overheard, but not approached. The mascara smudge under her right eye was just enough to make it look real, but too deliberate to convince me. "Everything okay?" I asked, hanging up my jacket. She turned, and the sadness melted into something rehearsed. "I just need you to trust me," she said. That sentence stuck in my chest like a splinter, because it came out of nowhere. No context. No lead-in. Like someone saying, "Don't look in the basement," before you even know the house has won. I stood there, still holding my keys. "Trust you with what?" She gave a weak smile. "Just with everything. With us. Please." I nodded. I said the right things. I hugged her. I told her I trusted her. And then I installed the camera. That same night, after she went to bed early with a headache, I went into the garage and pulled out the small box I'd ordered months ago and never thought I'd need. A little security cam, meant for monitoring packages, or maybe a nosy neighbor. I mounted it above the bookshelf in the living room, buried it between the spines of unread novels. Perfect angle. Covered most of the downstairs and the hallway that led to the front door. It wasn't about catching anything, not at first. It was about quieting the knot in my stomach, the one that had been twisting tighter each week. You see, for months, I'd been noticing shifts. Tiny ones. Like how she started locking her phone, not just with a pin, but with Face ID, and never left it on the counter anymore. Or how she started showering as soon as she got home. Even in winter. Even when we had nowhere to go. Then there were the gaps in her schedule. An hour missing here. A lunch date that didn't line up with her calendar there. Not to mention the sudden uptick in gym attendance. Twice a day sometimes. Even though she never came home sweaty. And the perfume. She never used to wear perfume to yoga. I wasn't angry then. Just alert. Like when you walk into a room and something feels off, but you can't say what. That's how it was living with her those last few weeks. Everything was familiar, but something was missing. Like the air had changed. Friday came and went. Normal. She kissed me good morning, went to work. I checked the camera footage after she left. Nothing. Just an empty house. Same thing Friday night. We watched a movie together. She even reached for my hand under the blanket. Saturday was quiet too. She had brunch with her sister. At least, that's what she said. She came home tipsy, giggly, and cuddled next to me on the couch like old times. I started thinking maybe I'd made it all up. Maybe I was the one pulling away and projecting it onto her. But Sunday? Sunday shattered that illusion. It started simple. She told me she was going out for a walk. Needed fresh air. Said she'd leave her phone because she wanted a break from screens. I smiled, said that sounded healthy. She grabbed her coat and kissed my cheek on the way out. I waited 10 minutes, then pulled up the live feed. The camera blinked on, and there she was, back in the house. Not outside. Not walking. In the living room, pacing. She pulled out a second phone from her jacket pocket. One I'd never seen before. She typed quickly, then stopped. Looked at the front door. Then she opened it. A man walked in. I stared at the screen, motionless. He was younger than me, slightly. Taller. Athletic. I could tell by the way she leaned into him that this wasn't the first time. She smiled in a way I hadn't seen in months. Not for me, anyway. They didn't kiss. Not yet. Just sat close on the couch. Whispered. She laughed. Touched his hand. He tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. Familiarity. Comfort. Intimacy in the small gestures. I turned off the screen. I didn't watch the rest. I didn't need to. It wasn't the physical betrayal that hit me first. It was the layers of orchestration. The spare phone. The fake walk. The fact that she knew to leave her usual phone behind, like she'd thought this through. Not once, not twice, but over and over. A practiced deception. That was what gutted me. When she came back an hour later, cheeks flushed from the cool air, she wrapped her arms around my waist in the kitchen and said, "See, just needed a little headspace. Trust me." I hugged her back. I didn't confront her that night. Or the next. I slept beside her, watched her brush her teeth, watched her scroll on the other phone under the blanket when she thought I was asleep. 3 days. That's how long it took before I knew what I had to do. Not because I wanted revenge. Because I needed truth. And the truth, once revealed, doesn't go back in the box. By the third morning, I couldn't eat. I sat at the breakfast table staring at my eggs while she hummed across the kitchen like a woman without a single care in the world. She wore my hoodie, an old one, frayed at the sleeves, and called me babe like she used to. She poured my coffee just right, kissed the top of my head as if we were still real. I wanted to believe her. God, I did. But the video played on a loop behind my eyes. That man's shoes on our rug. Her smile. The way she tucked her legs under her on the couch like she used to do with me. And then, the moment his hand slid onto her knee. That was the last frame I saw before I closed the file. I didn't tell her I knew. I became what I imagine an actor must feel like, performing normalcy, hitting the right beats. She'd built a lie, and I had to live in it long enough to learn its shape. So I played along. That Monday, I told her I'd be working late. I wasn't. I parked 2 streets over, sat in my car with the engine off, and watched the camera feed on my phone. 5:43 p.m. He came back. Same jacket. Same practice knock. 2 short, 1 long. She let him in wearing the same hoodie. My hoodie. I almost laughed. Not because it was funny, but because it felt like a parody of my life. Like I was watching someone else's nightmare and hadn't woken up yet. They sat on the couch again. She poured wine. They talked. He reached for her hand, and this time, she didn't hesitate. She leaned in, and they kissed. I didn't turn off the feed this time. I needed to feel it. Not to punish myself, but to make it real. Because until then, there was always a sliver of doubt. Maybe it was innocent. Maybe I'd jumped to conclusions. Not anymore. At 6:12 p.m., I started my car. I didn't go home. I didn't even think about where I was going until I ended up at my brother's house, knocking on his door with nothing but a blank stare and shaking hands. He opened the door, took one look at me, and didn't ask a thing. Just let me in and handed me a beer. We sat in silence. Eventually, I said, I think she's in love with someone else. He didn't say much. Just nodded. What are you gonna do? And that was the thing, I didn't know yet. I didn't want to burn everything down. I didn't want to scream, or rage, or throw her clothes on the lawn like some dramatic movie scene. I wasn't looking for revenge. I just wanted my life back. Or at least the truth, uncluttered and laid bare. I stayed at my brother's that night, didn't text her back. In the morning, she sent a message. Everything okay? You didn't come home. I stared at the screen for a long time. Then I wrote, needed space. Be home later. That day, I took off work. I needed clarity. I printed stills from the footage. Not the compromising ones. Just enough. Him walking in. Her pouring the wine. Them sitting on the couch, hands entwined. Evidence, but not cruelty. That night, I walked through the front door as if everything were normal. She was curled up with a book on the same couch. Our couch, like nothing had happened. Like the man she let into our home didn't exist. Hey, she said brightly. I missed you. I nodded. We need to talk. Her face changed instantly. The book lowered. Her smile dimmed. What's wrong? I didn't speak. Just handed her the envelope. She opened it slowly. At first, her eyes scanned the photos without comprehension. Then her face went pale. She looked up at me, lips parting like she might try to lie, to explain. Don't, I said gently. Just don't. She set the photos down carefully, like they were explosives. I didn't mean for it to happen, she said. I nodded. Most people don't. There was a long pause. One of those silences where every breath feels like a decision. I didn't yell. I didn't ask questions I already knew the answers to. I just waited. I thought you'd stopped loving me, she whispered. I blinked. That hit harder than I expected. Not because it justified anything, but because part of me wondered if she was right. If maybe I had been distant. Focused too much on work. Missed the signs until the rot had already set in. I never stopped, I said. I just stopped feeling safe. She started crying again. Real tears, this time. Or maybe I just wanted them to be. I was going to tell you, she said. Soon. No, I said. You were hoping I'd never find out. She didn't deny it. I sat down across from her, suddenly exhausted. I need to know one thing, I said. Is he someone you want a life with? Or was it just an escape? She hesitated. Too long. That told me everything. So I nodded. Then whatever we had, it ends now. She reached for me across the table. Please, don't leave like this. We can fix it. I made a mistake. I stood up. No, you made a choice. And I walked upstairs, packed a bag, and left. The camera is still in the bookshelf, recording an empty house. I didn't go back. Not the next day, not the week after. I stayed with my brother at first, then found a short-term rental on the edge of town. Something small, simple, quiet. Just me and my thoughts, echoing louder than they ever had before. Funny how quickly a home turns into a house. The walls feel colder when the truth's been peeled off of them. She texted twice after I left. Once to say she was sorry. Once to say she hoped I'd come home and that we could talk. I didn't respond. Not out of spite, but because I didn't know how to answer a lie with honesty. What do you say to someone who smiled in your face while betraying your trust behind it? Some truths you don't discuss. You just carry them until they become weightless. I filed for separation quietly. No courtroom drama. No social media announcement. Just paperwork, served respectfully. I even gave her a generous split of the joint assets. Not because she deserved it, but because I didn't want to stain my peace with pettiness. Some people think strength is revenge. I think it's walking away without needing to win. But I won in other ways. 3 weeks after I left, I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. It was him, the man from the video. His voice was shaky, unsure. I didn't know she was married, he said. I didn't reply. I found your number in her phone. I thought you should know. I waited. She told me she was separated, that you were living apart, that she hadn't told you because it was messy. I exhaled through my nose. Well, now you know. He was silent for a beat. Then, I ended it. I wanted to ask why he was telling me this. But maybe he needed it, that confession. Maybe guilt needs somewhere to go. I let him sit in the silence. Anyway, he said finally, I'm sorry. I hung up. That night, I sat on the floor of my rental, back against the wall, surrounded by moving boxes and the echo of a life I used to know. I pulled out my journal, the one I hadn't written in since last Christmas. I opened to a blank page and stared at it, wondering how to start. Then I wrote. She told me to trust her. So I did. And that was the moment I stopped trusting myself. That line stuck with me, because for a long time, I'd blamed her. For the lies, the betrayal, the man in my house. But deep down, the part that hurt most wasn't her decision. It was mine. The one where I ignored my gut for weeks, months even, because I wanted to believe the woman I loved would never lie to me. I wasn't just grieving her. I was grieving the version of me that believed love was enough. I started therapy. Real therapy. Not the kind where you show up once and say you're fine. The kind where you peel back layers, one memory at a time. Where you admit that trust isn't about someone else's actions. It's about your willingness to live in denial when the truth gets uncomfortable. My therapist asked me, if you could go back to that night, the night you saw her crying in the kitchen, would you still install the camera? I thought about that for a long time. Yes, I said, but I would have also sat down and asked her what she was afraid to say. Because that's the part one keep replaying. Not the footage, not the lies, but that moment in the kitchen when she asked me to trust her. And I said I did. But I didn't trust her enough to ask why she needed it. Maybe she would have lied anyway. Maybe the truth would have hurt sooner. But maybe, just maybe, we could have ended with dignity. With a conversation, not surveillance. With honesty, not evidence. It's easy to vilify someone when they betray you. Harder to admit that the foundation was already cracking long before they stepped outside the lines. These days, I live differently. Not closed off. Just slower to hand over my trust like a gift. I look for consistency more than charm. Honesty more than grand gestures. And when someone says, just trust me, I no longer hear comfort in those words. I hear a question. Should I? I don't watch the camera footage anymore. I left the camera where it was, but turned off the app. Maybe someday I'll go back for it. Maybe I won't. But for now, it's just a relic of a man who needed proof because he couldn't believe what he already knew. I haven't spoken to her since the papers were finalized. Sometimes, I wonder if she's happy. If she found whatever it was she was chasing. But then I look around at my little place, small, quiet, honest, and I realize. So did I?